Hi guys, it's Mishel, Deception Bytes, and I am back. I'm not bringing you Q today because there is no Q to bring you. It is 7:46 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is June, I don't know why, I can't get the month right, June 25th, 2018. So I do want to talk to you about something else, and that is this whole red hen debacle, because there's some things that aren't being reported that I think need to be. And I may not be popular for what I'm going to say. Now, I will come right out and say that I am a Trump supporter. So far, I have not seen anything that has completely freaked me out or alarmed me, but I am always keeping my eyes open to that because, that's part of being a rational thinking adult. And so this whole thing with the red hen, I look at it a couple ways. First of all, if I owned an establishment and I was anti-Trump, I would look at Sarah Sanders coming into my establishment and I would think to myself, well, I don't particularly like what she stands for, but her money is just as green as anybody else's, right? And that's how I would view it. I would think, okay, well, her eating my chicken does not mean that I necessarily agree with her politics, but she is a paying customer and I'm going to treat her with respect. Now, I also feel that if it was in their, if they did not want her in that restaurant, that they have the right to ask her to leave politely. Not to be rude, but there's things about this story that we're not being told. So, yes, I do think that they can reserve that right to ask her to leave. It's not what I would do, and certainly it's not what I would do being a Trump supporter, but even if I was not, and I was vehemently opposed to everything that Trump stood for, as a business owner, you have to make rational decisions. And I would personally look at Sarah Sanders and say, okay, as long as she's not getting on the tables and trying to convert everybody to a Trump supporter, and as long as she's not, making a scene, her money is as green as anyone else's. So please, Sarah Sanders, come in, sit down, and we'll serve you the best meal we can make for you. That would have been my take. But that's not what happened, of course, as we will find out here in a second. It's not what happened at all. So, and I liken this to the whole thing with the Christian bakery and, the gay couple that wanted them to bake their cake. Now, why you would choose a Christian bakery, I don't know. I think that they were trying to start something because it was my understanding that it was either them or it was another group of people that had done the same thing to several Muslim bakeries, and they had all been told, no, we will not bake a cake for a gay wedding. But nothing was said to those bakeries, but the Christian bakery was targeted, and eventually the court decided in their favor, but I'm sure that it didn't. Their business was still ruined. They're financially still ruined. So what difference did it make? But I sound like Hillary Clinton. What difference does it make? At this point, what difference does it make? But what I'm saying is that bakery should have had the right to be able to say, and eventually it was ruled that they did have the right to say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable baking a cake for a gay wedding. But here are a list of other bakeries that might be able to complete that request for you. That's what I would do. So in the same breath, I also support the red hen. If they wanted Sarah Sanders to leave, that is their right. The same way as it's the right of a Christian bakery not to bake a cake for a gay wedding. So you can't have it both ways, people. And it's ticking me off because here's the Republicans, the same people that, got all up in arms about the Christian bakery. Now they're all up in arms about red hen. It's the same thing. So if you support one, you got to support the other. If you are a business owner and you do not want to serve someone because it violates your conscience on some level, then you should be able to do so in America. That's my stance. Now, what I don't agree with is some of the other stuff that is surrounding this whole case that is not being reported in the news, naturally. So, first of all, let's hear in Sarah Sanders' own, from her own lips, what happened. And this is from the press briefing from today. So it's fresh off the press. Let's go look at this. Now, 1 second. I got to
ensure that Congress
here. Okay.
Asked to leave because I work for President Trump. We are allowed to disagree, but we should be able to do so freely and without fear of harm.
Yes.
And this goes for all people regardless of politics. Some have chosen to push hate and vandalism against the restaurant that I was asked to leave from. A Hollywood actor publicly encouraged people to kidnap my children. And this weekend, a member of Congress called for people to push back and make clear to those serving their country in this administration that they are not welcome anywhere, anytime, for anything.
And that would be Max.
Healthy debate on ideas and political philosophy is important. But the calls for harassment and push for any Trump supporter to avoid the public is unacceptable.
Okay, see what she's saying here is very important. She's saying that both sides have done wrong things. Okay, let me take this back a bit because I want to, she's very, very articulate.
To leave from. A Hollywood actor publicly encouraged people to kidnap my children. And this weekend, a member of Congress called for people to push back and make clear to those serving their country in this administration that they are not welcome anywhere, anytime, for anything. Healthy debate on ideas and political philosophy is important. But the calls for harassment and push for any Trump supporter to avoid the public is unacceptable. America is a great country, and our ability to find solutions despite those disagreements is what makes us unique.
Now, she's not out there calling for violence against the restaurant, as some Republicans are, and that is wrong. In fact, somebody asked that the restaurant be burned down. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Just like it would be ridiculous if they had called for the Christian bakery to be burned down. It's un-American. It really is. And the attacks from both sides are wrong. So don't think that I am supporting the Republicans all the way in terms of, oh yes, we need to do damage to them. We need to, write all these negative things on their Facebook and their, whatever accounts that they have. Yelp, I guess there was people going and writing all this stuff on the restaurant's Yelp account. No, I think that they had the right to do what they did. But there's more to the story, and that's the point. So let's get into that. Now, here is the point as far as I'm concerned, okay? This went way, way, way too far. And this is from The Last Refuge. And Red Hen restaurant owner followed Sanders' family to next restaurant to continue harassment. Are you kidding me? Okay. That's when I was, I would not have kicked out Sarah Sanders, but, I'm still saying that is their prerogative. However, you kick her out very, very, softly so that other people around don't hear and say, you know what, I don't agree with anything that you stand for, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave because I just don't feel comfortable serving you, but there are other restaurants in town here that I'm sure will be happy to serve you, and let her leave. Don't disgrace her in front of anyone. Don't embarrass her in front of anyone. Just allow her to leave quietly. That's what should have happened if that's what they wanted to do, okay? That's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. So they follow her family, rather, because she and her husband had had enough at that point and decided to go home or go back to the hotel. I'm not sure which. And so the rest of the family, the rest of the entourage or whatever, went to another restaurant where the red hen restaurant owner and others followed them to continue the harassment. Okay, well, now I don't feel sorry for them anymore. Now I'm not in their corner anymore because they have way crossed the line. So, backstory here. The story of White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders being kicked out of a Virginia restaurant by the owner, Stephanie Wilkinson, takes on more context today, as Mike Huckabee explained during a radio interview. According to Mr. Huckabee, and Mike Huckabee, of course, is the father of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I believe it is. According to, or maybe it's his daughter-in-law. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. But according to Mr. Huckabee, the owner of the Red Hen restaurant not only kicked out Sarah Sanders and her in-laws, but I think it's his actual daughter, and her in-laws, but she followed them to another restaurant, organized a group of people to assist her efforts, and then led the mob in continued harassment of the Sanders family. Okay, wait. Are you kidding me here? It's not enough that you embarrassed her by kicking her out of an establishment where her money is just as good as everyone else's. But you know what? That is your prerogative. Hey, I don't have a problem with that per se. Embarrassing her, organizing a group of people to harass her at the next restaurant when she really wasn't even there. She had gone home. It was her family. And the weird thing is that most of her family there that were there were more on the liberal side, interestingly enough. So, let's go on. Mike Huckabee was interviewed by Laura Ingraham for her radio show. For the conservative, when life presents great struggles, she knows she has the power to surmount them. Happiness stems from internal strength and perseverance. For the liberal, when life presents great struggles, the system failed. Therefore, they were at the mercy of a faulty system, and they believe that only when that system is fixed can their life improve. A progressive liberal's happiness is built on systemic contingencies, which will then seek to control or expect someone else to. One holds herself accountable. The other holds anyone and everyone accountable except herself. And there it is. That's where the origin of hate comes from. The liberal ideology causes that person to cast anger at the world when things go wrong or appear unfair. She constantly chooses only to see the injustices, and that makes for a very miserable, toxic, and blame-casting experience. And I agree. Now, this is a tweet from Donald J. Trump. The Red Hen restaurant should focus more on cleaning its filthy canopies, doors, and windows, badly needs a paint job, rather than refusing to serve a fine person like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I always had a rule. If a restaurant is dirty on the outside, it is dirty on the inside. Now, do I agree with Donald Trump's tweet here? Actually, no. I think that this is just engaging in the same thing that they're engaging in. I really do. Because I do think that the restaurant had the right to refuse her service, just as a Christian bakery has the right to deny making a wedding cake for a gay couple, if they so choose. The problem was not that they refused her service. The problem was everything surrounding the incident. Going to the next restaurant to harass her is way over the top. Way over the top. So let's go back and look at, okay. Let's look at this by Fox News. And just a moment here, because this is going to start playing, and I hate when that happens.
Heat on them right.
Okay, after White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and her family were kicked out of a Virginia restaurant on Friday evening, the owner of the establishment followed the group and kept berating them. Mike Huckabee, Sanders' father and the former Arkansas governor, told Fox Business on Monday. In fact, a little known part of this story is that after Sarah and her family left and the family relocated to a restaurant across the street, the owner of the Red Hen then organized an effort to go and scream at them from the sidewalk at the other restaurant, Huckabee claimed in an interview on the Intelligence Report with Trish Regan. Finally, one of Sarah's in-laws, who happened to be very liberal, it's her brother-in-law, went out in the street and said, look, Sarah's already left. She didn't stay for obvious reasons. She's had all she needs tonight. The rest of us are trying to have dinner. I'm a liberal. I'm not a Trump supporter. But you guys aren't helping our cause. Huckabee went on to say, so it wasn't just what happened in the Little Hen restaurant. It's what happened ongoing by the owner of that restaurant. Stephanie Wilkinson, a co-owner of the establishment, told the Washington Post that she felt compelled to take a stand, citing what she called the Trump White House inhumane and unethical actions. I'm not a huge fan of confrontation, Wilkinson told the Post. Well, she could fool me. Really? Really? She's not a huge fan of confrontation? Really? I would have thought that she was a raving lunatic of a fan of confrontation. You kick someone out of your restaurant, you humiliate and berate them, and then you follow them across the road where they're trying to have a quiet dinner, and you organize people to yell at them? Gee, if that's not a fan of confrontation, I don't know what is. Anyway, this feels like the moment in our democracy when people have to make uncomfortable actions and decisions to uphold their morals. And is that how you uphold your morals, Stephanie Wilkinson? Is that how you uphold them? Really? By harassing and berating your opposition instead of holding rational dialogue and following them across the street where they're not even dining and yelling at them after, inciting others to join you? Really? That's how you uphold your morals. Wow, I'm impressed. Not. Last night I was told by the owner of Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia to leave because I work for @POTUS, and I politely left, Sanders tweeted on Saturday. Her actions say far more about her than about me. I always do my best to treat people, including those I disagree with, respectfully, and I will continue to do so. And yes, I would agree that we need to do that as well. We need to treat those who oppose us with dignity and respect and try as far as possible to hold a rational dialogue with them, which I agree is at times increasingly difficult with the left. And it's getting more so. I agree. So it's an incredible thing when people, in the name of their liberty, want to deny someone else theirs, Huckabee said earlier Monday. And if you're in the hospitality business, your number one goal is to be hospitable. The owner of the restaurant was not hospitable. Now, I agree with that. But again, I go back to the fact that the restaurant owner did have the right to deny her service. Yes, she did. Now, if she's denying her service because she's black, or because she's a Jew, or then I'm opposed to that, absolutely. But, I don't know how you can say that it's okay for the Christian bakery, but not for the Red Hen. Okay, so to me, I don't agree with Antifa. I don't agree with anything they have to say, but I still support their right to be able to say it. I still support their right to free speech, because if we take away their free speech, our free speech is going to be taken away. Sooner or later, we're going to say something that someone doesn't like, and someone's going to shut us down. So that's where I stand on that. Anyway. President Trump also weighed in on the controversy Monday morning with a scathing tweet about the restaurant. And that was about them cleaning their windows and filthy canopies. It's sick. It's desperately sick, Huckabee said. And there's all these people who are trying to say, oh, well, they deserve it. Nobody deserves to be treated like this. And I agree. And it's not the fact that they were asked to leave. Like I said, if they had been taken aside quietly and just said, you know what, I'm really vehemently opposed to Trump's politics, and I just, don't want you to dine here. and didn't do so loudly and calling attention and embarrass the person and just allowed them to leave quietly and let it go. But to follow them across the street, are you kidding me? Are you mentally ill? Seriously. That's just not what a rational person does. So, here we go. And it's interesting because apparently, now, I'm not a big fan of InfoWars per se, but they do have an article there, and it's interesting that the Red Hen restaurant that made headlines after kicking out Sarah Sanders over her affiliation with the Trump administration has a sign in one of its windows saying, "Love can make friends out of enemies." So, yeah. The sign quotes Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend." But the words fell on deaf ears when it came time for the restaurant to serve the White House press secretary. And yeah, I would agree. So let's go back. And this is something else that I have a very hard time with. It's crowd goes for the throat when Kathy Griffin mocks Sarah Sanders' looks. Now, really? That's what it's come down to? We've got to mock her look? We can't approach her intellectually, and, you know, if you disagree with Sarah Sanders or something she says, I mean, she's really just answering questions for the White House. I don't understand why all this hatred towards Sarah Sanders. I don't get it. And to stoop to the level of, you know, making fun of her look, come on, people. And I'm talking to the left because I really don't think that the right, well, I hope the right is not stooping to this with other people that they disagree with. So after Sarah Sanders was refused service at a restaurant because she works for the president, Donald Trump, she took to Twitter to express her disbelief with the entire situation. While some people applauded the restaurant owner for upholding her, quote, morals, countless Americans came to Sanders' defense by leaving scathing reviews on the restaurant's Yelp and Facebook pages. And like I said, you don't respond to that sort of thing that way. I just don't believe it. Now, if you want to just not eat there anymore, now, that's what I would do because I tend to think that my money speaks louder than my mouth. And if I disagree with a restaurant, I'm just not going to eat there. But to go out and, you know, harass them, which is basically what they're doing, how is that any different than what the left is doing? Right? I mean, who has the moral high ground here? Anyway, and just as the controversy was beginning to blow over, comedian Kathy Griffin did what she does best and inserted herself into a situation in a desperate plea for attention. And I do believe that this woman is desperate for attention, Kathy Griffin, because she's, well, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, she's desperate for attention. And that's why she did the whole Trump thing with his head cut off, holding the bloody head of Trump. And if she did that in any other country on the face of the earth, what would have happened to her? You tell me. What if she had tried that in China? Russia? Any number of countries. It wouldn't have gone well for her. Griffin replied to Sanders' tweet by telling her to stop complaining, managing to also appear to call the press secretary fat along the way. And of course, for women, that is the biggest insult you can give a woman. It really is to call them fat. It is. You know, yeah, okay, if you're 500 pounds, you know you're fat. You know, and it's like, I used to carry some extra weight, and I used to not ask people, do I look fat in this? Because of course I looked fat in it. I was fat. You know, it's like I'm not going to ask someone to answer a question and want them to lie to me. It's like I have a mirror. I knew I had extra weight and I lost it. I dropped it. And you know, so but if you're like 5 pounds overweight or something, you don't call that person fat. You just don't. And Sarah Sanders is not what I would term fat. And even if she was, she's not her position is not based on her looks. Her position is based on her brain, and she does her job very, very well. She's very talented at it. So please, come on. Griffin replied to Sanders' tweet, but okay, look, doll, now that you've been recruited as the entire defense of line, and it should be defensive line, for the Dallas, she said that was a typo. I don't believe it. Look, doll, now that you've been recruited as the entire defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys, just enjoy life. Griffin tweeted, quit bitching, she added. So, yeah, that is calling her fat. She's saying that she's been recruited as the entire defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, come on. You don't think that's a huge insult? Yeah, it is. So, anyway. Surely, as she expected, the tweet was almost instantly met with outrage and disgust, causing yet another largely unnecessary Twitter storm surrounding the fallen from grace comedian. Time and again, it seems as though she believes the best way to insult President Trump is to mock those close to him, but thankfully not everyone agrees, and Twitter immediately fired back, pointing out quite a few flaws in Griffin's thoughtful tweet. Some told Griffin she shouldn't make fun of people for the way they look, since that's something she clearly wasn't taught in middle school. And the other thing is, Griffin has no right to make fun of people for the way they look. And I'm just going to leave that there. Okay? All right. Others hit right back at her with a few unflattering photos of her from across the internet. Shouldn't make fun of people's looks. Not very nice. Not very smart either. LOL. I'll let that sit right here. And they posted this picture. Look, doll, now that you've been recruited... Oh, wait. That was hers. And why do you have to try and get... This Doug replied to her and says, why do you have to try and get negative attention? Didn't anyone teach you how to behave when you were younger? Seriously, I thought making fun of someone's looks, body, stopped in middle school. Yeah, so did I. And some... sports fans kindly let her know that it was defensive line she was attempting to refer to, not the defensive line. Griffin later claimed it was a typo. Kathy, what exactly is the defensive line? Don't swim out of your depth here, sunshine. Kathy Griffin, look, doll, now... okay. Anyway, that was in response to her tweet. Unsurprisingly, it seems as though most of Hollywood gets a free pass when it comes to making fun of the press secretary's appearance. Comedian Mishel Wolf famously took a stab at Sanders' look when she performed at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, saying Sanders wears dark eyeshadow made of a burned fax. Yeah. She also said that she looked like Aunt Lydia of Handmaid's Tale. And Aunt Lydia is not a good character she's a fantastic actress, whoever is playing that, and I'm not sure the name of the actress that plays her, but she's phenomenal. But she's a really horrific character. So anyway, of course, Wolf went on later to defend herself and her jokes, reported by The Independent, saying, that was not a looks-based joke. That was about her ugly personality. Nice. And as expected, Griffin also came to Wolf's defense on Twitter the following day, arguing that her hilarious act only focused on Sanders for a minute and a half. And, of course, there's Kathy Griffin saying what Kathy Griffin says. Okay, I have some thoughts on Mishel is a Wolf's act and the reaction to it from members of the press and other DC insiders. For the record, I was in the room last night at Mishel is a Wolf set and was great. She was hilarious and confident. I didn't find her very funny at all. That's perhaps just me, but I did not find her humor funny in the least. Kathy Griffin, B. First, at Mishel is a Wolf, took no prisoners last night. She roasted Trump, Pence, White House staffers, the media personalities. Everyone is focused on Sanders, but it was only 1.5 minutes of Michelle's act. She went after everyone, as it should be. That is true. She did go after everyone, but she was completely brutal with Michelle Sanders. I mean, with Sarah Sanders. Gosh. My mind shutting down. Okay, I wonder if Griffin remembers how long it took for her career to plummet after she posted a photo of herself holding the severed head of President Trump. I think it was about a minute and a half. So round and round the cycle of hypocrisy goes. It isn't enough to simply disagree with someone's political opinion in a respectful manner anymore. According to Griffin and Wolf, the only way to truly prove your point is to offend someone and insult their family and employees on a personal and unrelated level. Facebook has greatly reduced okay, never mind. That's going into something else there. And, oh, I like that. Kathy Griffin. Where did I read that? Kathy Griffin is just a white version of Maxine Waters. Yes, I would agree. Yes, I would. All right, now, let's go back here and not drag this out too far. Now, I cannot remember what this is, so I'm going to take a look at it. And you are not going to stop me. Okay, Stephanie Wilkinson, a co-owner of a restaurant who refused to serve Press Secretary Sarah Sanders on Friday, reportedly cited moral and living up to certain standards as the reason why is now under fire. The historic downtown Lexington, Virginia Facebook page has a poll up asking, should Stephanie Wilkinson of Main Street, Lexington be able to keep her position as director? And it appears to be unanimous that Wilkinson should step down. As of this writing, 95% call for the Red Hen owner to step down as director of Main Street, Lexington. Now, she is the director of Main Street, Lexington, and of course, I would think that they are pretty focused on tourism and attracting people to Lexington, right? And what she did was counter to that. So I can understand. And if you are going to stand up, and it was her right and whatever to ask them to leave, but she is still responsible for any backlash from that and any consequences of her actions, just like we all are, right? So I don't have a problem with them doing that at all. So that's that. Now, these I pulled from Twitter. Thought you might find them interesting. I'm sure I could have pulled hundreds, but I've only pulled a couple. And this is someone called the feminist next door. Instead of forcing her out, the Red Hen should have taken Huckabee's kids and told her she could totally have them back as long as she agreed to leave immediately. Okay. And that would be appropriate where? Nowhere. And that would be appropriate when? At no time whatsoever. And here is Erin. Sarah Huckabee Sanders looks like she's lost weight. Missing that meal at the Red Hen turned out good for her. Okay. Aaron looks a little chunky himself. I think that maybe he could do without a few meals. Perhaps. Okay, that was uncalled for from me because I just did the same thing that I said that we shouldn't be doing, and we shouldn't be doing it. So don't follow my example ever. And this is interesting too. I found this and it's not really it's related, but not totally related. This is by Mercury Wood Rose, and he is apparently the Hill commentator. If he is not prosecuted, referring to President Trump, if he is not prosecuted or impeached, then we will shut down our nation until he resigns. If he refuses to resign, we will storm the White House and take him out physically. This monster cannot stand. Don't cross us. That's a little scary. It's scary that we're getting to this point. It really is. And then we have Maxine Waters. And I think I may do a separate video on Maxine Waters. But we have her calling for a backlash against Trump supporters as well. And for a member of Congress, that is totally, totally irresponsible and childish. So that's it for tonight. And, maybe not it for tonight. That's it for this video. And I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you have a good night and stay safe.